I love seeing that there's already almost 20 of you so far. Very exciting. Um, All right, I'm going to keep admitting folks into the waiting room, but I'll just kind of do some quick intros and then we'll do it again for the new folks. So, good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour, bienvenue. Thank you for joining us today for our professional toolkit webinar on the future of career navigation and adopting Canada's talent ecosystem through AI. We're going to get started in just a few moments, but as folks are settling in, we love to ask, maybe you can throw in the chat where your name, where you're joining us from today, and maybe how the weather's treating you. And my name is Bissy Wario. I'm joining from Research Impact Canada based at York University. And I'm joined by my lovely colleague, Sandy Chan, as well as our partners from the Future Skills Center. And we're also very excited to be joined by our featured speaker, Drew Lindsay, who is the founder of GuruLink. And we're going to do some really formal introductions in a moment for Drew. As we wait, I just want to do a land acknowledgement as we are based here, or I am based here at York University. So York University recognizes that treaty history is foundational, and it is our collective responsibility to honor the land as we honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. First Nations people have lived on this part of Turtle Island for millennia, stewarding the land, the water, and all that contributes to life in this region. Today, the culture and presence of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples enrich the lands and people of this territory. So we have almost 30 people here so far, which is amazing. So I think we're going to start to get going. So again, thank you for joining us today for our professional toolkit webinar on the future of career navigation and adopting Canada's talent ecosystem through AI. My name is Bissy, and again, I'm joined by my colleague Sandy, as well as our partners from the Future Skills Center, and very excited again to be joined by our featured speaker, Drew Lindsay, who is the founder of GuruLink. And Drew brings over 20 years of experience in redefining recruitment and talent strategy for tech startups, Fortune 500 companies. And Drew leverages cutting edge technology, especially AI, and deep industry partnerships to solve complex talent challenges, scale teams, and foster inclusive workplaces. Sandy, next slide, please. So before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. We encourage you to participate throughout the session using the chat. We are going to have a formal Q&A portion after our presentation, so you'll be able to unmute yourself, raise your hand, and ask questions directly to Drew. We also have closed captioning available, which can be activated in the Zoom toolbar below. And for those of you who would like to listen in French or participate in French, we also have live French interpretation available. So you can access it by going to the More icon at the bottom of your screen and clicking what looks like a globe icon. And then you'll be entered into a channel where we have a live French interpreter so you can listen along. Next slide, Sandy. So again, we'll begin with a presentation from Drew from GuruLink. Following his presentation, we're going to move into a facilitated discussion and Q&A. He's also going to be doing a demo, so I think this will be really kind of active and engaged conversation. And then we're going to just close out with a quick Zoom poll with like 3 final questions. So without further ado, we're at 12:05. I'm going to turn it over to Drew. And again, Drew, thank you so much for joining us today and for helping us work through this really timely topic on AI and navigating Canada's skills ecosystem.
Yeah, genuinely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to hopefully make this a bit of an interactive session. So I'll share my screen here and just kind of walk through a little bit of the story and kind of I guess what we're trying to do in our mission, and then get into a bit of the product side of things as well, just to do a quick run through. Won't be able to go super deep because there's multiple sides to the platform, but happy to answer any questions as we go as well. Are you able to see my screen?
We can see.
Okay, fabulous. Awesome. So first of all, thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I know everyone in this room basically spends their days trying to help people navigate one of the most stressful times in their life. So hopefully this will be worth your time. A little bit of background on what we're building. So PathPilot is, I started off as an AI career and learning companion focused on job seekers. We did a pilot initially. We've been very, very fortunate to have some amazing support from some great organizations, including Future Skills Center, who's been a fantastic supporter, Magnet, CCBF, and some others. So we started off, we did an initial pilot that was initially a job seeker focused tool or client focused tool. They were able to navigate opportunities, basically help them understand, where are you today? Where are you trying to go? What opportunities are actually available? What are the gaps between you and the opportunities that you want are available? What skills would be out there? And what skills would you want to upskill on? Help write resumes, cover letters, and go through mock interviews with feedback and iterate on those. Really, our entire mission from the start was to try to increase practitioner capacity. So the first phase of the pilot, we deployed it to a bunch of different organizations. We had about 15 different organizations across university career centers, indigenous career centers, immigration settlement, and to work really closely and do a bunch of discovery with practitioners to just try to understand as much as possible a day in the life and some of the challenges that exist, because the intention was to really build sort of a platform that would allow the kind of orchestrators in the middle, being the coaches, to work closely with the clients and with employers and bring all that together through kind of an AI native infrastructure. So from the start, CCDF, which hopefully most of you be familiar with, was one of our partners from the very start of this. And so they've been very helpful in helping shape this. I see some actually familiar faces. I see Sharon's there as well, and Lisa. So nice to see you guys. But CCDF has been really, really helpful in connecting us and just helping us to understand the ecosystem, Magnet, and Future Skills as well. A few of the other organizations that we worked with there, but really this was people have been helping us shape this from the very start, and it's been practitioner first DNA is really what we've been trying to do. We still have lots of work to do, lots of things that we have on our roadmap, lots of things we probably don't yet have on our roadmap that we should as we work further with these organizations on version 2. We just launched version 2 actually about a month and a bit ago. Still working out some kinks there, but really, really excited about that, because now we have a platform where practitioners are able to see what's happening in their community, where individuals are stuck, who needs intervention, what type of intervention that they need, and really have something to assist them in between sessions and to get the context of what's happening in between sessions. We have also an independent evaluator, Daro, through the FSC project. So we do have some independent evaluation happening along here, but really this has been built from the ground up with practitioners in mind, in spite of the fact that the first version of the tool was a job seeker focused tool. So what are some of the challenges we've been seeing with the job seekers or clients, I guess, as often you might refer to them? I mean, very, very volatile labor market. As we all know, I think things are changing in ways we've never seen before. Youth employment or underemployment is at a high, and significant challenges there. Often job boards are just that, job boards, and there's a very kind of disconnected tools that are providing general broad advice. So there's interviewing platforms, there's resume optimization platforms, there's job boards, but all of these things are kind of disconnected. The practitioners are spread very, very thin as it is, with limited resources to have the impact that they want to have. And so only so able so often to speak to people. And what we wanted to do was give somebody a tool in between those human sessions to help them navigate things in between sessions. There's significant challenges around rural communities, in particular indigenous communities, other underrepresented communities where access is generally just uneven. Language and inclusion is something that we've been focused on. In fact, actually today, our evaluation partner, Daro, is doing an EDI&R session with some of our pilot practitioners. So that's been something that we've been very, very focused on. As I mentioned, we're doing work with indigenous communities as well. And PathPilot can actually speak 84 different languages. So somebody who's new to the country, they can translate their resume, they can speak to PathPilot in their language of choice, and it will speak back to them in their language of choice. So we're trying to build sort of language and inclusion from the ground up. And one of the challenges that people have is, and I've seen this even with some people very close to me, people who are rather confident individuals, when they start having career challenges, that confidence erodes pretty quickly. And they start second guessing themselves, and that starts to create a bit of a vicious circle in terms of how they're able to perform in interviews because they start thinking about what's the right answer as opposed to just being genuine. And there's a lot of knock-on effects from that confidence eroding and people being underemployed that include mental health challenges and a bunch of other things. So there's just a whole host of challenges that are some of which have always existed and some of which are sort of new based on the current paradigm of AI and some of the other things that are happening in the economy and market. So we've spoken to probably about 50 different practitioners, a little bit more than that. We have over 80 practitioners in the system right now, but we've had one-on-one calls with about 50. And some of the challenges that we found with individuals, which hopefully would resonate with some of the people here, is caseloads. I think, 80 is on the very low side. We have in some cases hundreds of cases that people are trying to manage, and it's just challenging to really give the one-on-one attention that they would like. The compounding issue to that is that from the people that we've spoken with, often it's between 40 and 60% of people's time that is being spent on administrative tasks, case notes, reporting, and things like that. And so more time is almost being spent on some of the administrative work than on that human impact, which is really, I think, the value. In my view, in this age of AI has a certain role where it can help automate some of the mundane, repetitive tasks. But I think the thing that doesn't go away, in my opinion, that's fundamentally important is that human to human interaction. Part of the role, as I see it, is really helping inspire these people to believe in a brighter future and lifting them up and being a real coach and sort of challenging them in the right way to get them to think differently and shift their perspective. And analogy I'll sometimes use is it's kind of like if you have a personal trainer and you go to the gym, you can get out a few extra reps with that person encouraging you and helping lift the bar. And I think that's really where, from the conversations we've had, people get more of their satisfaction from, but unfortunately, not most of their time is spent there. So part of our goal has been to just help automate some of these repetitive workflows for people so they can spend more time on the human to human interaction. One of the things that surprised me a little bit is that burnout in this industry is, depending on the studies that you look at, in some cases as much as 82%. It's significantly higher than other industries. And I think part of that is, it seems like because of that administrative load and not being able to have the impact necessarily that people want to have or the time to have the impact. And I think our belief and our hope is that if we can give people back more time to do the human to human side of things, that will create better outcomes and also greater job satisfaction and less burnout. There's a whole host, as I mentioned before, of sort of disconnected tools. There's labor market tools, there's upskilling solutions, there's resume writing tools, there's AI and other interviewing practice tools, there's job boards, and all of these things are disconnected. So what we've really tried to do is bring a set of tools together that keeps it all connected and gives the clients a reason to use the platform. We have effectively what we would call a meta search engine. So in our platform, we have about 250,000 jobs in Canada, but we have about 10 or 11 million jobs globally. It includes jobs on LinkedIn, Indeed, directly on company websites, on a bunch of websites that I've never even seen before, like Trabajo.org I've now seen, and a bunch of others. So effectively, it's meta search, and they can customize resumes for those jobs. They can practice interviews for those jobs. So the goal is to give them a tool that helps them to bring all of this together and then give you the context of what's been happening in between sessions. So instead of, in call number 2 or 3, trying to gather the context of what has happened in between your last calls, the goal is to be able to have that context and that information prior to your conversation so that you can spend more of the time on coaching as opposed to context gathering, if that makes sense. And really the limit is just, the accountability. I think there's more need today and will be even more need tomorrow on an ongoing basis for what everyone in this room does. And then not necessarily proportionally increasing budgets to support that. And so I think in our view that we need sort of tools to help give back more time and hopefully improve outcomes at scale. In line with that, again, it's not, certainly the bottleneck is not effort and not desire or caring for the outcomes. It's generally capacity. Practitioners can't serve more people without burning out. In some cases, can't even serve the ones they're supposed to without burning out. And programs are generally not expanding budgets in some cases, depending. I mean, I think there's some concerns from some of the immigration settlement centers, for example, that we've been working with that right now numbers are down and could budgets even decrease. And so budgets aren't heading in the right direction in the way that people would like to have the impact that we want to have. And so is there a way that we can give people back some time and increase capacity with AI? And we think that's a possibility, and that's what we're working to do. And really just having the coordination between what's happening with labor market data, what's happening in the market, and being able at scale to map what is happening in the demand side, what's happening in the supply side, and how do we build the right infrastructure in between to sort of match those two things better. So our belief is that mentioned before, everyone deserves an intelligent ally in their career that they can access 24/7, so that they're not just necessarily dependent on being able to have appointments, but there's somebody that they are able to talk to in between sessions. And one of the things we wonder about is would maybe even they be more comfortable talking? In some cases, people are, in some cases they're not, but be more comfortable even divulging some really intimate information about how they're feeling about something to an AI companion than they might to even a human being, sort of maybe less risk of being judged. Again, as mentioned before, we support we support 84 different languages. Platform is two-sided. In fact, there's three sides. I won't go through the third side today, but there is an employer side as well. So organizations are able to invite employers in, or at least add in their employer jobs and data to be accessed conversationally. And one of the things that we've been focused on, we were actually the first company in Canada to receive the ISO 42001 certification. That's a responsible AI development standard. So in my view, building AI responsibly, independent of what you're building, is fundamentally important, but particularly what we're building, trying to be responsible. So we have monthly audits, we have penetration tests, and we have a whole bunch of standards for which we have different personas that run automated tests through our system, looking for bias, looking for things of that nature. And then we adjust the system accordingly on a monthly basis as well. So we have over 250,000 active jobs in Canada. We have 350,000 plus courses and training opportunities and programs. We're able to deploy the tool in days, and it basically gives one shared operating layer across the entire organization. We also, in addition to the courses and the jobs, we have resume writing and editing. We have cover letter writing and resume, and we have AI interviews in 3 different modalities, which I'll show you later. Text or dictation, voice, the step-by-step voice where somebody can answer and restart the question if they don't like the answer and submit when they're ready, and then free-flowing voice AI as well. Matching explains itself. The system learns as it goes. We also have labor market information built in as well, so people can get a sense for what's in demand in the market, what are appropriate salaries, etc. And for organizations, we have some built-in reporting, and we're working on integrations into other case note systems and things like that so that these things can be synchronized. A couple other things that we are working on that we're very close to launching is an AI meeting note taker. I'm not sure if anyone has used them. I don't know. I have trouble living without them these days. But the idea being that organizations will be able to create formats and prompts of different types of notes. The system will automatically analyze a conversation, determine what kind of conversation it was, and output the notes in a consistent format. And so ideally saving people a fair bit of time from having to write detailed case notes. There'll be an opportunity to edit those notes as well, but that will be all tracked. And as mentioned, working on being able to push that into various case note systems or other integrations. One of our partners, an organization called Empower, they use Salesforce. So that's a fairly open system that we can integrate into quite easily and help to automate some of their reporting. Our real goal here is to take people from a confused and uncertain state and help them to really find clear next steps. It's very conversation rooted, so people can ask anything that they want, and it will call in various tools, but it will help them to understand what the possible pathways are, what adjacent pathways are. It'll be able to pull in jobs related to where their interests are in jobs that might be their North Star job, as well as the survival or intermediary roles. You can build ATS-ready resumes, cover letters right in line. You can edit them manually, or you can edit them conversationally. Full voice mock interviews, skills gap analysis, and course recommendation. And it does learn more and more about the person over time. So it does get smarter over time and be able to provide more customized guidance. I'm just looking at the time. I should probably speed up a little bit so we make sure we have time for demo and classes. Um, to be totally clear, I think in just about every industry, people have concerns about the thought of AI replacing them. I think that that's a dystopian future and certainly not the one that we're trying to create. Our belief, though, is that the systems are strained and the people are strained, and that there's a better way to potentially do this, and that leveraging AI could really add some value there. So some of the things we're doing, as mentioned, is there's real-time dashboards, a full conversational workspace for practitioners as well. So you'll be able to say things like, I was speaking with this client, what roles are out there that might be good. Based on those roles, what are the gaps in the skills that are most in demand in the market and that they should maybe upskill on? Help me to create a bit of a plan for them, recommend some courses, help me to revise their resume, and you can help revise their resume conversationally so you can speak to the entire system. You can also speak to the job side. If you put in employers, you can say, we were working with this employer, who in our network would be the best fits for this employer. You can search and filter the talent and the employers as well. You can prioritize cases and look at analytics. So the goal being to really just serve more clients more deeply without sacrificing the human component. In fact, giving more time for that. So just a little bit of an idea of how this could potentially work within your service model is, practitioner builds the action plan, potentially introducing PathPilot and in your own language and giving a little bit of guidance on it. Kind of in between sessions, the person can start exploring pathways, write resumes, do mock interviews, etc. And then when the second appointment happens, instead of, as mentioned, gathering the context and spending a bunch of time up front that could be spent toward giving guidance, that context is all in the system. You're able to see what's happened in between sessions. Where does this person appear to be stuck? What guidance might they most need? And so you're able to start right from the out of the gate of giving some additional advice. I think it's always good to gather additional context because, of course, we don't have all context, but we do have all of the insights into what conversations they've been having, what activities they've been doing in the system, and where it appears that they might be stuck. Then they can continue on their journey in between. And ultimately, when you get to the next section, it really more time being spent on sort of decisions and advisory and coaching and lifting them up. So basically what that allows is for the organization and the individual practitioners to see what the actual progress has been in between, as opposed to asking about it and just having silence. And the organization as a whole sees what is happening in the entire system and kind of what's working, what's not, and who needs help. You can, as mentioned, you can bring in employer postings. You can do employers can come in as well. So it's and then there's a whole organization management for employers, so they can add multiple users. They can add their jobs. They can talk to the system and say who in this talent community is a good best fit for my job. When they look at candidates, it actually gives signal. It tells them why this person is a good match. They can see a resume, but it also gives them information on why is this person potentially a good match for you. Here's a summary of their background. So it gives a nice high level overview of the individual prior to digging into the resume. And fairly easy to adopt and add people as well. And organizations can manage their employer network through this if they so choose. As mentioned, something, trust and responsible AI has been something that's been important to us from the start. So we have the ISO 42001 certification. We're in the middle of doing our ISO 27001 certification as well. We do regular bias audits on a weekly basis. We are looking at the system and we're auditing chats as well. And it's been designed to be privacy first and accessible and inclusive. Just some of the evaluation results from some of the first phases. So almost 86% of people surveyed found it PathPilot easy to use, and 83% said they felt more prepared for easy interviews and generally helpful in their search. One of the other metrics that I didn't put into this slide, it doesn't necessarily look like the most impressive number, is in totality across the multiple phases of pilots we've done. There's just shy of 60% of people who said that they found a career opportunity they hadn't considered before, a career pathway they hadn't considered before. Generally, 60% is not a great, but in my mind, if we're helping 1 out of 2 people find a potential pathway they hadn't thought of, then that is definitely a step in the right direction. One of the things that we're offering here as well is kind of timely. So we have, again, the fantastic support of Future Skills Center. And we are running some pilots right now. And so any organizations who might be interested in trying this out in their organization can do so entirely for free. We have a 6-month pilot. You can bring in as many practitioners, as many job developers, as many clients as or employers as you would possibly like. We're really looking to partner with people to further shape the evolution of what we're doing here. So a little bit about kind of what the typical kind of phases look like, but yeah, this is at the end of this presentation, there'll be a slide that a QR code rather that you can scan to express interest. So completely free. If the expression of interest does not mean that you're committed necessarily, we'll jump on a call and I'll provide some more detail and answer any questions that you might have. But would love anyone and everyone here who thinks this could be interesting or valuable to book a call and express interest, please. V2 is now live. One of the differences, so the first phase of the version of the platform was entirely a conversational assistant. And so it was more of a pull than a push. By that I mean, if you wanted to see what jobs are out there, you needed to ask it. Now it's being more proactive and action oriented. It's continually looking for jobs for people and will notify them of jobs. People very shortly will also have the ability for people to communicate with the system through WhatsApp. So they won't even have to log into the web interface. They'll just be able to talk to a WhatsApp PathPilot assistant and get jobs and assistance and resume rewrites and things like that right through WhatsApp. We've improved the agentic architecture. We have some more kind of traditional search. We have the multiple sides of the platform. And a whole bunch of other kind of improvements, but knowing that we're a little tight on time, I'll just kind of skip through this and ideally show you some of it. So yeah, I'm not going to show the employer view today because we have sort of limited time and I don't know that it's as relevant, but certainly would do that in any deeper conversations if people are interested in learning more. But we do have all 3 sides to the platform. And I think that's kind of it for now. And before jumping into the demo, if you're interested, and maybe I can put this up again at the end, but would love it if anyone who is interested in learning more, please scan the QR code or visit the URL there and just fill out the expression of interest form. Again, completely free, 6-month pilot, and would love to have anyone and everyone here participate. So maybe I'll stop there for a minute and see if maybe, I don't know if this would be in appropriate time this year or not, just to see if anybody has any questions perhaps before I jump into showing a bit of a demo.
Absolutely. We can take a break now to get some questions answered from folks in the room. And yes, Drew, we'll make sure to leave this particular slide open or up at the end for people to just take a quick picture of. All right, actually, we already have one hand up. Gordon.
Good morning. Hopefully you can hear me. Sorry, I'm on a couple of different monitors. Hey,
No worries.
super fantastic. And I may be coming from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, and very familiar with all of the intersections of this and really happy to hear about this. I'm wondering if this is the platform to ask a little bit about the architecture and the tech stack and whether or not, say, an organization like ours with kind of a trusted local indigenous population around information, this is a kind of a add-on architecture where we can have our own RAG systems, et cetera. I'm wondering if, how about this? The simple question, the granular information. So you were talking about all these big job boards and probably
Yes.
using Knock and Oasis for skills and the issue on these kind of big projects is always kind of the granular kind of data, the nuance stuff. So I guess my first question, or my only question for today, I think I have a meeting with you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. I've already booked, would be I saw 350,000 plus training opportunities.
Yes.
Where are those being scraped from? Are those being inputted in? Are they based on partner in upload, or is that, so.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And I think I understand where you're kind of going with the broader question maybe as well, which is like context is king, I guess, as they would say. And so, for example, if there's like specific rural or indigenous communities, it's like, well, it's great that we have all this information, but how like focused is it on that specific user type, and how are we ensuring that we're providing information that's most relevant to those types of people, I think is what maybe the broader question is, if I'm kind of understanding. Is that a fair assessment in some ways?
Yeah, I guess the bigger question would be: is this a platform like let's say a core layer that can be built upon with
Yes, yes, yes.
external
A
layers?
hundred percent. So we have all of the jobs data that we have. We have the course data, and answer to your question, these are things that we're scraping from Udemy and Coursera and other things. People can also, it has web search as well, so people can find podcasts that they're maybe interested in learning about, or there's a whole bunch of different resources people can pull in and store and save. Um, but the system can be customized. So we could layer in different courses. We could include the courses that we have. We could remove the courses that we have. We could bring in courses that are more relevant. So if we're doing it in a university, we could bring in their curriculum. If we were doing it in indigenous population, there are specific resources we want to bring in. We can scrape those resources. If the organization has that data in a way they can provide it to us, fantastic. That makes life easier. But we can potentially scrape and pull in the data as well. So what we wanted to do was have like a base level of the platform that would be ideally useful out of the box and not require a ton of configuration for people, and especially if they didn't necessarily have access to the data themselves. But this can be customized on an organizational basis or contextual basis for the audience or the organization, if that's a question.
Thank you for that. Do we have any more questions before we get into the live demo? I want to make sure we have time to see that in action. All right. If not, Drew, I think you can start with the demo, and then I'm sure there will be more questions after that.
Alrighty, that sounds great. And I'll come back to the QR code thing again after. Oh, looks like there was maybe another question that popped up there.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Hello. Curious if PathPilot has partnered with any post-secondary institutions. If there are examples that you can share.
Yeah, no, there's a few. Georgian College has been a really great supporter. SFU, we've been doing a little bit of work with York actually as well. Schulich, we actually, my core company GuruLink does a bunch of work with Schulich Venture Academy. We're a sponsor of Schulich Venture Academy, and so we have really pretty strong relationship there. And we have actually a conversation again with them next week on Wednesday. So short answer is yeah, we do have university post-secondary career centers as well.
Great. And for anyone that didn't hear, you said York University, Simon Fraser University, and what was the last one, sorry?
Georgian College.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, Georgian College is participating in our EDI and our session with our evaluator today, along with Manitoba Start and St. John Newcomer Center, the three primary entities that are participating in that side of things, just given their lens. All right, so I'll take you into the platform. So everyone can see my screen still here, right?
Yes.
All right, and everyone say a little prayer for me, please, and cross our fingers, because I was doing some testing right before this, and our team had pushed a bunch of stuff, and it was quirking on me, and I think we've got it in an okay state again here, but the joys of doing live demos and trying to move really rapidly here is that sometimes, and working with AI, it does sometimes do some quirky things. So this is what somebody will see when they're first logged into the system. Prior to getting to this point, they provide a bunch of information in onboarding. So they would upload their resume, it extracts skills, it extracts job titles, they give some additional information on what the opportunity looks like that they're looking for to provide the system with context, because as I mentioned before, context is king. And so we need that context of the individual or some baseline context in order to start giving them some general guidance. There's a bunch of different actions that people can pursue. There's 6 that are standard in the system. Working on a way for organizations to be able to, and this is a pretty low-hanging fruit thing, but for organizations to be able to create custom actions that they can push out to their users. So if there's a survey that they want them to complete, if there's an AI check-in that they maybe want them to do, people will be able to push custom actions to either the whole community or even subsections of the community as well, and have some control over what these actions are. It automatically will surface job matches based on the person's profile and interests and searches that they've saved. It's a scrollable carousel. There's also the ability to view this entire list, and at the bottom, see they can load more. And there's 2 views. There's this card view, but there's also the row view. And the row view will give some insight into why this role is or is not a good or great fit for them. So I'm sure we probably have one here that's a poor fit. So this is only in the US. So it'll tell them why right out of the gate if this is a good or not a good role. Anywhere you see this sparkly icon, that creates a conversation. So this will create a new chat with this job in context. This one up here will take to the main chat, which I'll show afterwards as well. But yeah, people can navigate jobs directly through the dashboard. It's also going to push course recommendations. I happen to be an AI/ML engineer is the kind of profile that I'm using here today. So it's pushing other courses based on what's in demand in the market and that they've been gaps between them and some of the roles they're looking at to suggest various different course matches that they might be able to look at. These courses are all displayed here, all the course data. We're scraping quite a bit of information about the courses, and then they can save these resources. So if I want to save a job or any resource, I can either click the save button or I can click the save icon up here. When it comes to resources, I can actually allocate these into lists. So we'll say, this is ML Ops, we'll call it. And that gets saved into a specific folder, which I can show you later. So people are able to organize various different learning resources. When they use web search, so if you ask something that we don't have information on, it'll run a web search and pull a bunch of results as well. Those links can also be saved into various different folders as well. So you can save either courses that we have or any web links that you pull into conversation as well, which I might be able to show later, kind of depending on time. It's going to suggest some interviews based on the roles that it's surfacing and what roles have been saved. And they can start a chat and consider what are the kind of chat pathways here from the bottom. There is, and I'll go to the chat and I'll just do a quick overview of this stuff and then I'll kind of go into a bit of a chat flow to give you a little bit of an idea of how that works. But people can explore jobs. It's going to, again, bring roles that match their resume fit. And they can also save multiple different types of searches here. And it'll show saved jobs and recently viewed jobs. If I wanted to run a search, let's say, please show me AI or ML engineer or adjacent roles located in Vancouver, let's say for the sake of argument. So what this is going to do, it'll take any natural language here that you want. It's going to parse that natural language out into a series of filters here. So it's found, so the location is Vancouver. It's looking for AI engineer roles or adjacent. So it's had 6 other job titles that it feels are sort of adjacent to that might be relevant. And it's returned the list of results here with a summary of if it's a poor fit, good fit, great fit, etc., and a summary for why. I could save this search now. So if I want to save that and call it AI engineer, oops, put something on there. Oh, there's a quirk. So yeah, the spacebar is giving me a hard time there for some reason, so that's a little quirk. But if I save that, that's now going to automatically surface roles like that for me. The reason we did this in the first version, people were only able to find jobs that were a good match for their skills. They couldn't save searches. A lot of the types of people that we're dealing with have their North Star job, but there's also that survival job or that job that might be in between. And we wanted people to be able to keep an eye out for multiple different types of opportunities and be notified of those. Any role that they find that they're interested in, for example, this, they want to save it. That goes into save jobs, which will show up here. So this rolls right at the top and it'll organize them in a chronological order and they can refer back to that anytime. Save searches show up here. So there's the role that I saved search that I just saved, which will automatically keep running. Similarly for resources, they're able to search resources. I could say, find me AI agent or agentic engineering related courses. And it'll do much the same thing as it did for the jobs. It'll parse out that natural language into a series of filters and give me resources. I can save those resources into different folders. So I'll put this into my AI agents folder. And I should have probably shown this in jobs, and I did briefly, but there are a bunch of different filters. In jobs, it's like find me, and for courses, if they wanted 3 courses only, they can find those based on duration, etc. Similarly for jobs, they can add in industry, company size, etc. So there's a whole bunch of like standard filters that people can use once they have this initial search, and they can even speak those filters and it will happen automatically. The system's able to generate resumes and cover letters as well, and you can edit those both conversationally or manually. So here's an example of a resume that they have for this person. They can download the resume in PDF or Word. They can edit the resume manually. So I just clicked on that edit link and they can click in here and just type or to edit the resume. Or if they so choose, they could also edit this conversationally. So this now has been brought into the conversation and I can just talk to this and say, hey, I wanted to make some revisions to my resume and I have some new experience I wanted to add in, etc. So they can just conversationally edit the resume as well, or ask anything they want. Where's my resume falling short? Help me to optimize my resume. Any type of conversation they might want to have about giving guidance on the resume they can do. Same idea for cover letters, which I won't bother necessarily showing. And then interviews. So there's the suggested interviews, saved interviews, and completed interviews. I'll give you a quick idea of what an interview flow looks like. I may have to, stop sharing here for a second and restart because I'm not sure if I shared audio. So give me one quick second just to make sure that I've got audio shared here because it won't be nearly as useful if it's not. I don't think it was. So it's good that I did that. Okay, we're back. I assume everyone can see my screen again.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, beautiful. So let's pick, and it doesn't really matter. I'll pick any random job, and it could be any job that you discover as well. I'll show you again when we go to it. But yeah, so I'll start an interview. It's going to ask me how many questions do I want. I could put 100 questions theoretically if I wanted. I don't know if somebody would want to go through an interview like that, but I'll pick 3 for the sake of argument. And then there's 3 different modalities that people have, which is text. So it'll type the question. You can either type back or dictate your answer. There's guided voice, which is a step-by-step voice asks a question. You answer in voice. If you don't like the answer and you want to restart, you just restart and you submit that when you're ready. Or there's a full kind of free-flowing natural voice interview. So I'll do this one because it's kind of the most interesting one, I think, in some ways. So now I just need to confirm. And what it's doing now effectively is it doesn't have a canned set of questions. It's looking at the individual's resume. It's looking at the role. It's saying, if you were an interviewer for this role, what might you be inclined to ask?
Hi, James. We'll be conducting an interview for the position Senior Machine Learning Engineer at Iris Software, Inc. Let me know when you are ready to begin.
Yeah, sure. Let's start.
Question 1. Can you describe a specific instance?
My apologies. Sorry for interrupting you. Would you mind maybe doing me a bit of would you mind maybe doing me a bit of a favor? Before we get into the answers to the questions, I'd really love to understand what are the most important elements for you in the right person here. I just want to ensure I'm framing my answers in a way that's going to be the most beneficial for both of us, I guess.
Certainly, James. For this Senior Machine Learning Engineer role at Iris Software, Inc., the most important elements we are looking for include hands-on experience in building and deploying machine learning models in production environments, with a strong grasp of MLOps practices such as feature stores, model registries, CI/CD pipelines, cloud...
Sorry to interrupt you again.
I understand you...
That's probably good for now.
Can you describe a specific... Question 1. Can you describe a specific instance where you successfully deployed an ML model into a production environment, highlighting...
I won't make you go through any more of that because I can't really answer the questions it's about to ask me anyways. But it's going to go through a set of questions, and it does quite a nice job actually of making the person kind of feel heard. After you give an answer, it'll say, "Oh, that sounds really interesting," and it'll kind of repeat back a little bit of what you've said to kind of have you feel sort of heard a little bit. So it does quite a nice job of that. And then what ends up coming out of it after is you'll get an output of the person will get a response, an output. This is an old one that got pulled in. It didn't pull in the answer for some reason when we rolled over platforms, but it'll give the question, it'll show the answer, show the feedback. It'll show that, this was a good answer, suggested improvements if relevant, and an example response. Same thing here. I didn't do a good job on this one, and it'll tell me, didn't provide any context. I just said spark. And so it'll give an overall and then at the bottom, it gives overall feedback on the interview as well. You interviewed strong on the star. The second question was revealed significant weakness. So it'll give some general guidance on the interview. They could also, like anything else in the system, they could bring this into a conversation, talk to the system more about the interview. What else could I have done better? What other questions should I be prepared for? Anything you can think of, they can talk to all of the different elements of the system. So that's kind of a basic view of some of the major filters. I'll show you the conversational side of things as well very quickly here, just looking at time. So we'll start a new chat. So there's a bunch of different pathways that somebody could follow that you also saw at the bottom of the dashboard, but I think a common place for people to start is job matching or possibly resume optimization, but let's start with job matching for the sake of argument. So I can ask it to show me jobs that are a match, or just I give it some more context of a role or position I'm looking for, but I'll do it based on my resume match. So what it's done is it's basically gone and pulled some jobs that it thinks are a good fit for me or great fit. So if I pull up this role, so what it's doing, instead of just taking me to the job description, it's giving me a summary of what the role entails and why it would be a good fit for me and what the elements are that aren't a good match for me. These skills required, in this case, they're all green. That's because this profile has all of those skills. If I didn't have some of these skills, it would be white. So it gives you a quick glance of like what skills do you have and not have for the role. And then it gives you a match based on the information that you've given to it at the start of what you're looking for. Why is or isn't this a good match for you? And if they want to apply, they click apply now. This job happens to be on RBC's website directly. So as mentioned before, we have jobs directly on corporate websites as well as Indeed, LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. So this job happens to be on RBC's corporate website. I suspect if we pick another one here, let's look at ThoughtWorks. So this role's on LinkedIn. You will very occasionally find roles that aren't active. If it's opened and closed within 24 hours, which believe it or not happens, I don't know why people do that, but people open and close roles in 24 hours. Roles like that you may find, but I'd say 99% probably of the roles that you'll find are actually active roles. And then there's a bunch of different actions that we can do. So I can always talk to it and ask it to customize a resume or what have you for this, or I can ask it to create a resume. Something maybe worth noting, all of these job descriptions are now in the back of this conversation. So every single detail of these jobs is in the conversation. So I can say, based on these roles, what would be the most valuable skill for me to develop in comparison to what's in demand in the market, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of different things that I can do. But if we want to go back to this role, if I want to create a resume, again, I could speak to it, or I can just ask it to create the resume for me. What this is doing is looking at the job, looking at my resume, trying to reword my experience to be a little bit more relevant for, oh, something funny here. It's trying to reword, I don't know what it did there, so it'll work for me here. It's explaining something, but it's not formatting properly here. But what it's done is it's rewritten my resume to be a better match for the role. It hasn't, it's not going to fabricate any net new experience. It's just trying to sort of reorder the experience, reword the experience to be a little bit more relevant. If I wanted to customize this, because I noticed, let's see if this will work. It was working on me earlier today, but I noticed this role requires some experience with RLHF, reinforcement learning, human feedback. I actually championed a project at Wish from the ground up. I conceptualized the idea. I brought it to my manager. I did the systems design and architecture, ended up getting it approved. I hired 2 team members to join me. And the ultimate end result of that was a 33% improvement in recommendations and a 14% improvement in cart size at checkout. Please add this into my resume under the role at Wish. So you can see here, champion and letter reinforcement learning human feedback project from concept to production. So just conversationally, it's being able to add and edit the resume just on the fly. And you can do that at any point. All of these functions that exist, you don't have to click a button to call in the resume. You can just say, update my resume, and it knows to call all these kinds of functions and stuff. You can also, from a job, and I think I'll kind of move on to the other side of the platform here, because I know we don't have a ton of time. You can start the mock interview process. You can develop skills for the job as well. So it'll look courses up, and it's going to look at what are the gaps and what courses might be most relevant for you, and it'll start recommending courses. So there's a bunch of different stuff that you can do through it, and you can always call in any of these functions immediately from just conversation as well, as opposed to having to click the various different buttons. So that's a basic overview of the job seeker side of the system. I'm going to go really quickly through this because I do want to leave this time for Q&A, and I know we're a bit over time here. So now I've just flipped over into the organization side of the system. And what you see is the job seeker activity, employer activity, if you've invited employers into the system. There's a graph of what's been happening from an activity perspective. I could pick different things like, chats that are happening, or I can change the period of time to the last 30 days or the last week. So you can just get a view of kind of what the activity levels have been. It'll show you who the most recent activity has been and what they've done. You can click through to see any of these individuals, or this will be a resume that they've generated. And I can go back and see Rodney's profile. What it generally does when you look at an individual is it says, here's what they're doing well, the low level of engagement for Rodney. He just signed up, so not a lot of actions. What they're doing well, areas for improvement, encourage interview preparations, you can platform utility. So it'll give you just some search. You can add notes, and the meeting note taker that will be in here shortly will bring in notes. You can see their recent activity, and if they've saved jobs or documents, all of their activity is visible to you here. There's an AI chat as well, and so you'll be able to find people, match jobs, get community level insights. So you can start to talk to any of the data. You can say, who are the least active people that appear to need the most assistance? I was speaking with this client, what jobs would be the best fit, and based on those jobs, what skills should they develop? If it's a job developer, I was speaking with this employer, who in our community would be the best match and why. Give me a summary, please. Make it an email ready format, so et cetera. So you can talk to all sides of the data here. You can save conversations. You'll have your full chat history. You can explore your talent community conversationally. You can do a conversational search like before. But you can also kind of just scroll through. And if I want to look at any of these people, you can also assign them to a member of your community if you member. So if you wanted to assign it to a specific practitioner, you can assign clients as well, and then they would show up in the My Clients folder. You can save talent, and you can just search it all conversationally. We're very shortly actually going to be putting in the actual key metrics for each person here, so you can see that at a glance and sort and filter by that as well. So if you wanted to search more granularly by activity, you'll be able to do that. And you can just add talent into your network by either uploading a list, sending an email invite, or copying and sharing a link. And so that's how you can add talent into your network. On the employer side of things, similarly, you can, if you want, add employers. So if I wanted to add an employer, you just put the company name, the website. Just from that information, if you click generate, it'll build a company description. You can optionally invite somebody from that organization or not. You could just get the data and the jobs into your system and without inviting the employer, or you can get the data and jobs in and have the employer invited in to manage them. And all you have to do is enter in a URL for a job posting. One of the things we're working on for rural communities is the ability to generate and add jobs directly in case they don't. There's a lot of, in particular in smaller rural communities, they may not be posted somewhere. So that's something that we're working on as well, because we really do want to be able to bring that context in. But you can add employers and jobs and invite them into the network, and they're able to log in, see talent, talk to the system, see automated matches for their jobs, etc. You can navigate and search jobs as well. And there's a whole organization management side of things too. So you can invite users in, give users different statuses like owner, member, etc. So there's a whole multi-tenant user management system as well. I'll stop there because I know we only have 5 minutes, and I've gone on probably for too long already. And there's so much more I could show, but hopefully that gives a bit of an idea, and maybe might spark some interest to scan this QR code and speak further.
Yes, thank you. I was going to ask, maybe while we're just facilitating some Q&A, to have this slide up. So again, if anybody is interested in learning more about the PathPilot cohort, please just scan this QR code and you can book a call with Drew and learn more. In the meantime, we do have a few moments left, so I would love to open it back up for Q&A. If anyone has any questions for Drew. And you can feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself. We've gotten a little bit smaller in the room, so we can facilitate that. Anyone? I guess, Drew, while we have you here, for those organizations that might be interested, maybe what are some practical first steps that they can do internally before they come to have a call with you? What are some things that could be helpful for them to think about?
I guess really the only thing is that is there other people maybe that might be inclined in their organization to kind of want to be brought into this, and they're curious about these kinds of things and how they might be able to help them in their journey, because ultimately we want to engage as many people as we can in the organization. It doesn't, by no stretch does it have to be the whole organization. Even a few practitioners, but are there any of your colleagues that you think might be the most inclined to be kind of curious about this and might want to participate? It might be one good thing to think about. And other than that, happy to really just talk it through one-on-one with people. There's not a lot of prep they need to necessarily do. I think just if there's interest, please express interest and grab a time, and happy to chat through it and provide some more context on kind of what the pilot program looks like and how we kick it off and those kinds of things.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I'll see if there are some questions that maybe come up in the chat. But I guess next, from some of the organizations that you have had the opportunity to partner with so far with PathPilot, are there maybe some quick key takeaways that you can share from practitioner experiences of using this platform? What are maybe a couple of best practices, potentially things to avoid?
Yeah, and so so we're just kicking off our V2 pilots. So most of the context and feedback we have from practitioners was on version 1. Honestly, I was pleasantly surprised at how positive the feedback was. mainly because the platform was designed initially, the first version, to be a job seeker focused tool. They were still able to bring in a resume and say, hey, I have this client that I'm going to be speaking with. What jobs might be good? What skills should they develop? What's the market saying? So it was still useful to practitioners, but it wasn't purpose designed. But people still found it really useful to prep for meetings. And so before they were going into meetings, to just kind of get some more context on how they could advise this person, create learning plans, create plans using the AI. So with that context, this becomes far more useful, because before they would have to like go and find the person's resume and add it in. Now they're going to just be able to say, I have this call with this client coming up. How can I maybe best help them? What else can I do? What else should I be thinking about? Help me create a plan. Any of this will just all be conversational, because they have all the employer data, all the client data, and all of the additional data we have in our system can all be spoken to. So this will be far, far, far more useful. The other thing that we heard from practitioners is, I guess, generally broadly, was resume writing was really useful for their their clients, and for them. The AI interviewing was really, really helpful. We got some really good anecdotal stories as well about people who found jobs on our platform that they had not seen elsewhere. Were able to secure interviews by using the resume customization. And in one case in particular, gentleman he was out of Georgia. He'd done sports management, which is a bit of a niche area, found two roles that he hadn't seen anywhere else, applied for both, got both interviewers, did not prep for the first interview, did not go particularly well, used the system extensively to prep for a second interview, aced it, got the job.
Amazing.
And one of the other things that we've been hearing is people in particular who are in newcomer settlement, or there's language barriers. It felt like just kind of lower risk way for them to practice. And I guess one of the things that someone had said from Georgia that they'd heard from clients was it was a savior, which is a bit of a strong framing, but yeah, generally some positive feedback.
I think that's great, and especially the fact that you said you have over 80 languages that participants can use. That's going to be very helpful as, like you said, newcomers are coming to Canada and needing to kind of practice maybe soft skills and learning how they can apply their skills here. So thank you for that. We just opened up our poll as we are kind of closing out the session for today. So just want to make sure that you have a chance to fill this in. We really want to thank you, Drew, for coming in today and giving us such a detailed kind of overview and demo of how people can actually use the tool if they are interested. That's exactly what these professional toolkits webinars all are about, is making sure that practitioners are able to join, learn, and see how they can apply, opportunities in their organizations. So thank you.
No, thank you. I really, really appreciate the invite. Like I said, I hope it was a reasonably good use of people's time, and I hope I have a chance to speak with a bunch of you one-on-one
Yeah,
soon,
so
because
far,
would
I think everyone
love
is
to have you
finding it
participate.
valuable.
Yeah, actually, at first it was showing me the results, and now it's asking me the question. And I feel like the poll is not probably for me to answer.
You
It's just full. I'm like, I could be biased. It's so yeah. I'd love if you're open to sharing any feedback. Is welcomed, and please don't be shy. Maybe I don't know if we can send something out afterwards with the expression of interest link as well, perhaps to see. That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. We will share out these slides, your slides, and the recording. We'll make sure that's all available on our RIC website, and we'll make sure that in the email we have a link for that potential booking call with you, so that folks can action that.
Fabulous.
Thank you. Well, I will let folks stay. If maybe Drew, if you have a few moments, if they want to ask you questions. If not, we are at the end of our professional toolkit webinar. Again, thank you so much for all of you joining, sitting with us today and with Drew, and learning more about how you can responsibly use AI to support job seekers in Canada. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
I see some warm thank yous in the chat as well.
Appreciate that. I'll just stay on until you're one of the last ones to drop off. Kind of feels
Yeah,
like
just in case. Sometimes we have people that want to ask questions, but maybe are a little shy.
Yeah.
I'll unspotlight myself so that you can have the floor.
And by the way, my apologies for going a little longer than we should have. I don't know, perhaps maybe there weren't a lot of questions, so maybe I didn't wasn't overly disruptive, or maybe it was just I didn't leave enough time for people to ask their questions. I'm hoping it was
I
The
think
former,
this
not the latter.
presentation, it was I thought very informative, and I'm assuming questions may have been answered along the way. But I'm assuming that a lot of people may have taken down that QR code information to follow up with you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
as
Fingers
you
crossed.
mentioned, it doesn't have to be organization specific. It could be individuals from organizations who are interested in learning more. So please feel free to reach out.
I will reach out, and that
Absolutely.
was one of my questions because the organization that I work for is part like is funded by government. So we have our AI policies. So I'm not very sure, but I'm very interested in yes. So I'll be booking a session, or I just had I have a bunch of questions.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to jump on a call and answer any of them. Just as a heads up, on Saturday I'm flying to Stockholm for the Future Talent Summit.
Mhm.
So next week's a little bit wonky for me. So we might not be able to connect until the following week. But but yeah, please book a time, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and look forward to it.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye,
Thank
Maria.
you, Maria. Any other last minute questions before we let Drew go? Thank you, Drew, for staying over. We appreciate your
No problem.
time.
No problem. I don't mind at all. I'm genuinely appreciative of everyone's time here. I mean, it was a good big group and of exactly the type of people we would like to connect with, and
Mhm.
so more than happy to do it.
Okay. Well, I think people are heading out, maybe heading to their next meeting. So we will close out the session. Again, resources will be emailed to you